a DFS look at tonight's 10-game NHL slate. Pete, you need McDavid tonight, or can you pivot to another center? This dude is going to cost you a lot of money, and I'm talking the most out of anybody else, $9,200 on DraftKings.
I'll say yes and yes, because I have McDavid in my mock lineup. I also have his power play line mate, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, at the center position in my lineup. So McDavid, of course, top of the leaderboard, near top in points, behind Draisaitl, top in multi-point games, top in power play points, which of course doesn't count in DraftKings, but it's a good indicator that he's worth it on a nightly basis just because he gets that prime usage and conversion. The Oilers' first power play unit has been ridiculous. The power play operating at 50% through 10 games. That's historic stuff. But Nugent-Hopkins along for the ride. He's actually tied with McDavid for the NHL lead in assists with 14 in 10 games, due for his first goal with none on 20 shots. I think he could get it tonight. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers are facing the Detroit Red Wings, who have been a pleasant surprise but are still sixth worst in the league in penalty kill and goals allowed. So ripe matchup for McDavid and Nugent-Hopkins tonight.
Jeff, is he worth this price tag? The other day, he scored the goal of the year, like dangling a puck, skating through 4 Rangers, and now he's going up against the Red Wings.
Yeah, it looks like me, when I go play with the 10-year-olds at the rink outside in the winter.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I mean, just dangling through, right?
Just beating up on your children.
That's right. Right. It's just ridiculous stuff there, though, by Connor McDavid. And look, everything Pete said is right. The Oilers also might be starting like their third-string netminder tonight, which really only adds to the fact that we might see like a 5-4, 6-5 game, which, Edmonton is very good at winning. So he's worth it. It's just we have a 10-game slate, and there are a lot of good matchups here. And you have like a team like St. Louis where you can stack with Vladimir Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly, back in the lineup for them as well. You can stack that first-line power play for a lot cheaper. So I'm going to say no to the question of do you absolutely have to start with Connor McDavid, but you can start with him. I mean, absolutely. It's just it's going to limit what you can do at the other positions. Like you're probably not going to be able to stack St. Louis and Edmonton. So I don't think you necessarily need to, because there's so many high upside spots. Guys like Tarasenko in that mid-range, and even like Boston is in a very good matchup against Ottawa. But yeah, I'm not going to go too hard against Pete here, because this Edmonton power play is just ridiculous at this point.
Well, Jeff, Brad Marchand has 7 points, all apples in his last 3 games. Is he your favorite winger tonight? He's going up against a young Ottawa Senators team, or would you prefer someone else?
I mean, like I said, this is just another example. I mean, Marchand's $7,400. And look, I mean, yeah, he's a streaky goal scorer, and maybe you want to play the regression game a little bit or something. Obviously he's got, 7 points now in his last 3 games. I don't think that point per game is going to stay that hot, but at the same time, I mean, he hasn't scored in a bit, and this is a great spot to do it, right? So all things considered, I prefer Tarasenko, who I mentioned. I mean, the Winnipeg Jets are a team who, again, they have a really bad penalty kill as well. You've got the Blues coming in here with like a top 5 power play. Tarasenko, again, he plays on the second line, but he's been so prolific for them this season. It's a great comeback story. In terms of shots per game at his position, he's up there. He actually exceeds Marchand in that category in long-term form as well. So point per game player. St. Louis has been a little bit quiet over the last 2 games, but again, I feel like this is a spot where they get back off the mat here against the Winnipeg team who, Connor Hellebuck not playing as good as in years past. And like I said, their penalty kill is terrible. So I think Tarasenko and the whole Blues power play is a good target tonight.
Pete, Marchand hasn't scored a goal since October 24th. Shots on goal, only really 2 per game, but he is averaging close to 4 scoring chances per night.
Marchand is one of the safest options for sure on any given slate, but I just like the price point here of Jonathan Huberdeau. I was shocked to see his price in the middle range here. I know the Panthers are on second of back-to-back, but they came on strong near the end of that Ranger game, nearly tied it up in the final seconds. Huberdeau, of course, his line mate Sam Bennett is banged up, but that doesn't really matter because Florida's depth is as good, if not better, than any other teams out there. And yeah, I think Huberdeau, just 12 points in 12 games, very quietly, does it on a separate line from Barkov. He's either going to play with Anton Lundell, high upside rookie, who will be moving up, or he'll play with Sam Reinhart, who's a fantasy relevant player from last year and, plays really well regardless of lineup placement. So, and then, Huberdeau is facing the Devils penalty kill, which is 8th worst in the NHL. No Jack Hughes for New Jersey again. I just like the bounce back appeal in the Panthers and Huberdeau for a surprisingly moderate price.
Hey, Pete, let's go to the Blue Man crew. We got a 4-game point streak for Brent Burns. How can you fit his $7,500 salary in your lineup? You going to do that, or you going to go with someone cheaper on defense?
I'm a little worried about spending up for Burns here just because we don't know if Timo Meier is going to be playing and or Erik Karlsson, because they've both been on COVID protocol, and the Sharks have tapered off a little bit past couple of games. So I'm fading Brent Burns. I'm spending down for my defenseman tonight in my mock lineup. I got Evan Bouchard for some Edmonton exposure. He covers block shots, leads the Oilers with 20 this season. I also have Cale Clague for the LA Kings, who's playing on their top pair and first power play in the absence of Drew Doughty. So I'm kind of taking a discount approach tonight. I know that Brent Burns is showing a little bit of the ability that made him one of the top defensemen in the league for many years running. He's bouncing back so far. I'm just still a little reluctant to fully buy in on the San Jose Sharks as a playoff caliber team. So I'm fading Brent Burns and going with Bouchard and some of the cheaper guys out there.
Yeah, Jeff Burns, he could enjoy that bounce back campaign given his strong start. Are you picking up what he's putting down tonight with that salary?
I mean, we've kind of reached peak Brent Burns. Like, if you've been getting on him kind of when he's a little bit cheaper, it's been a great play. He really is sort of having a renaissance season. But like now he's the most expensive play on the slate. He's well over $7K. And Calgary's like a good defensive team. They're playing really well. They're not allowing a ton of goals or chances. This is the spot where you want to get off. We also have a 10-game slate. Pete went over some good value options. I really like Evan Bouchard as well. Playing on the top pairing, block shots, shots on goal, like trending like a top 10 defenseman. He's still only $5K. We talked about how cheap he was when he was $4K. He's still too cheap. I mean, this is against the Red Wings, one of the worst penalty kills in the league. And then you've also got injury issues on St. Louis, another team I mentioned. Justin Falk is there at 4,900. He tends to play a ton of minutes when they have injury issues. He's definitely up there in minutes played. Torrey Krug, IR. You can even look at Perico at the same price, but Justin Falk getting the first line power play minutes right now, most likely. So I think all things considered, this is the night you need to go cheap on defense because you also have injury issues on the Kings that Pete mentioned. This is where you save money. You can go under 5K or start at 5K with Bouchard. Because we've already talked about like 5 wingers that are in massive monster spots. You got to get guys like Marchand, Tarasenko, and maybe McDavid in. So go cheap at defense. I like Falk, I like Bouchard, and I like targeting that king spot too.
Jeff, bring us home with your favorite value play on this slate.
Yeah, for value play, I mean, there's certainly obviously a lot of spots you can look at, but I think the LA Kings going up against Montreal here, you got to target some of their cheap forwards. Alex Iafallo, probably my favorite, with some of the injury issues they have up front as well. Victor Arvidsson out. Iafallo is really just taking a step forward. I mean, we've seen him play in the top 6 for the Kings before, but now he's averaging well over 3.3 shots per game. And again, this comes down to opponent. The Kings are playing great. They just beat the Leafs in a shock win last night, but now they've got the Canadiens. I mean, the Canadiens are just a hot mess defensively. They're pretty much bottom 10, bottom 5 in any kind of defensive metrics, scoring chances allowed, penalty kill, goaltending is awful. Iafallo is really just too cheap there for a top 6 winger in a great matchup.
All right, Pete, favorite value play on the slate?
I like Anthony Cirelli, Tampa Bay Lightning. Tough matchup against the Carolina Hurricanes, but he's playing monster minutes in the absence of Nikita Kucherov, who's out long-term once again this regular season. So Cirelli, top line right wing. He's not playing center like he did last year. So he's available for a bargain price, $3,300 against the Canes. He's played 21 plus minutes, 3 straight games, has had 2 multi-point games in that span, and is playing with Braden Point, who's coming off a big game. And I think Braden Point, once again, will prove over this course of time that he is one of the truly elite centers, not just a product of Kucherov. So to have 2 guys that could take heavy face-off volume on that top line can allow Tampa Bay to contend with the top team like Carolina, even without its best player in Kucherov. So I really like Cirelli, who's playing on that top line. again, with Killorn and Braden Point to return value here for a crazy low price.